and it's based around the fact that we use a lot of flowers as embellishments on our cards and scrapbook pages. I thought it would be really, really nice, as I do crochet, etc., to make my own. So I just did this earlier today. I just used 2 different colours here, and I deliberately kind of made it all kind of ruffly at the edges to kind of do this kind of more softer look, but you can do all sorts of different things. But I thought on this video I would just show you how I went about making this particular one. Okay, so today I'm going to be using these 2 colours, and again, you don't have to use 2 colours, you could use a single colour, but I'm going to be using 2 colours as I did before, and I'm just using a normal tapestry yarn. This is just Anchor tapestry yarn, but you've got all sorts, so that's what I've got here, and I've got a yellow and my white, so hopefully this will end up looking like a bit of like a daisy. And then I've got a crochet hook. First thing that we want to do is make our cast on loop, so it's just a plain simple slip knot, so just wrap it around your fingers like so. So you've got the loose end in here, pull that through the loop that you've made, so you get that, and let it tighten up, and then just start to pull it tighter using the end that's not the loose end but the one that's attached to your yarn, and just pull it tighter, and then as it gets to the point where you can, it's not so loose, just pop your crochet hook in and tighten it onto the hook like so. So then holding this piece between your finger and thumbs, well actually I'm going to hold it on this side, I'm going to hold it on there, I find that easier if I've got a long enough piece. So then taking your hand upside down like this, take your little finger and pop the yarn in between like so, then take this finger, lift it up, twist it around so that the yarn is going around through there. Okay, so that's kind of like an anchor, and then turn your hand over, and then you can grip that piece in there. So you turn it over and then take hold of the little tail in your hand there, in the finger and thumb. And the first thing we need to do is learn to cast on and make our slip knots. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your hook and you're going to pop him underneath and then out to the right, twist it around and grab hold of that piece of yarn in the little hook, and then just simply pull it through the loop, and there's your first stitch. Okay, and then do it again, 1, so around in a circle, so it's an anti-clockwise circle, pull it around, get hold of your little wool, pull through the hoop, and again. Okay, so then we've got 4 stitches, so let's just do 1 more to make 5. Okay, now your first stitch will look a little looser than the rest, potentially, so then we're going to take our little row of stitches and we're going to pop our crochet hook through the first one. Now it can be just a little bit fiddly. You've got your stitch, you've got like this little V on the top, and then when you've got it underneath you've got one little loop on the underside. So what you're wanting to do when you go into your stitch is to go between the 2. There we go. So if you look head on here, you can see we've got 2 pieces on the top and the 1 piece on the bottom. What we're going to do is we're going to get hold of our yarn correctly again in our hands, holding hold of the tail, then exactly the same, we're going to make the same slip stitch. So then we need to go through the first 2, which is just there, look. So we're going through those 2, and obviously you can do it like this if you want to the first time. It's harder for me because I'm trying to show you, and then we're going through the second piece. I'm just splitting my yarn there, so I'm just being careful. There we go. With 1 stitch on the hook, and then if I just loosen this, and then you've kind of got this little circle started, okay, which looks a big mess, but it's fine. Now this is always the hardest bit because you're starting off and you've got your first stitches are just so sort of difficult because you've got nothing to grab hold of. Okay, so now we're going to make our first set of actual crochet. So we're going to do something called double crochet. So what we need to do for that is we want to pick up a stitch. Now when we're on here, you're not going to be able to be that fussy about getting a specific stitch. To be honest, just put your hook through and any little loop you can grab and try to evenly space them. Doing a double crochet and you start your first row, it has a certain height, the stitch. Like a knitting stitch is so tall, so is this. So in order to make sure that you're not pulling your stitch, you need to bring your hook up a little bit. So we're going to do one for a double crochet. When you're going to do a double crochet, you do one slip stitch at the beginning of your row. So you make one stitch and that gives you the height that your double crochet requires. Okay, so now the next thing you do, and that's only on the beginning of each row, is we're going to pick up a stitch. Now you could just go in, but I want to actually find a loop, and this is where I say it's a little bit more fiddly. And it really does need a bit of a shove because they're very tight and it's a big hook. There we go. So we've popped that through, and then again holding on to my tail here. So then for a double crochet, all you do is you're going to do the same thing. You're going to hook our yarn over, and this is called yarn round hook. So when you see in patterns it will say YRH, that means yarn round hook. So you put your yarn round hook and take that through. Only the first one. You don't take it through the stitch that's on your hook already. So that's your first part of your stitch. Then you put your yarn round hook again and you go through both loops this time. So you end up with one loop on your hook. So that has made your first little double crochet. Okay, now you'll see this better as we go round again. So again, now this time we don't need to do our slip stitch if we were doing a straight row, but because I am going round a circle where the middle is smaller than the outside of my stitch, so in order to allow it not to kind of sit as a tube, we need to make it a little bigger around the outside. If you look at this one in particular, this last stitch here, this blue is actually only one row. If you looked at this, and you can see here, a heck of a lot smaller than this circle here. So if I didn't put any of these chain stitches, or yes, chain stitches, I should be calling them, not slip stitches, sorry. If I didn't put any of these chain stitches in, then you would literally, these would be all absolutely close together. They wouldn't have any room to spread out. So what would end up happening, of course, is it would look like that. I'm gonna pop this through. Okay, and then we're going to go through the one, yarn round hook, and through the two. Okay, and then one chain stitch, and then through another stitch. And we're just going to keep going until we think we've got enough. Now look how we're starting to form our circle. And you can see now by doing that extra chain stitch how it's allowing that to sit flat. So now we've completed our row, but obviously there's a big gap, they're not joined together. So we need to do our one chain stitch still, and then we need to pick up the chain stitch that's the top of our double that we did here. Or actually it would be the top of our little chain stitches. So we pick that up there, pop that through, and then we just do straight through the lot. And that, if I just take my hook out, you can see has now completed our first little circle. Okay, so then I'm going to do another row of doubles. Okay, so we've reached the end of the circle again. So yeah, again we'll do our slip stitch, and then we'll connect it together, so, and then we've got our lovely little centre. Okay, I want to change the colour, so I'm just going to pull a loop. This is how I do it. I don't know if it's okay. So I've got my loop like so, and then I need to get my second colour. So basically I've got my ball of wool over to this side, and then my little loose end of yellow also over to that side, and then all I'm going to do is take my loop and put them both through, and then we just tighten up, tighten up this yellow end, so that we then have got our new colour. Whoops, be careful not to pull that through. So then we've tied off our yellow and we've got a loop for our new colour. Just holding on to all the ends so they're out the way. We are now going to be doing a treble, which is these tall stitches here, which are one of my favourite crochets. I love the trebles. So if you remember, I said in order, and you can really see it here, if I was just to again start my treble without making my crochet hook effectively being up here rather than down here, what we'd have is my treble sort of squashed on the first one. So what we need to do is grow it up. So first of all, we're going to do 3 slip stitch, 1, 2, and that's your slip stitch, just simple that. Okay, with a treble, what you do is you yarn round hook, then you find your stitch and you pop it through your stitch, then you take it through just the stitches, nothing else, and you end up with 3 threads on your hook, and then you go again and you take it just through the first 2, so you end up with 2 threads or yarns on your hook, and then you take it finally through the last one, so you end up with 3 on your hook. It's a little bit closer. Okay, so first thing, because we're doing a circular one, we need to make our extra chain stitch the same as we did with our double crochet. I think I'm going to do the 4. Let's yarn around needle, hook, then in our next stitch we've got now is we've got the original stitch that we started with, that's our yarn round needle or hook, and then that's the 2 stitches that we've just put our hook through. So then we're going to do yarn round hook like so. We're going to pull that yarn through those 2 yellows, and then we'll end up with 3 threads on our hook. So then we do yarn round hook again, and then we pull our thread through the first 2, so we end up with 2 on the hook, and then yarn round hook again and through the last 2, ending up with 1. I do again 4 slip stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn round hook, needle through the stitches, yarn round hook, through, yarn round hook, through the first 2, yarn round hook, through the last 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn round hook, next stitch, yarn round hook, and don't forget you still need to do your 4 chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, and making sure all the tails are at the back. We need to join our circle together now through all of them, and then break your yarn or cut your yarn, whichever, and just taking your yarn, taking it all the way through the loop as if you're making a normal stitch, and then just pull to tighten. Okay, so turning this over, we're just going to, first of all, let's deal with the two that are together, since that's nice and easy. So first of all, I'm just going to do a little knot. Although we did knot it already, I just want to be nice and sure that it's nice and firm. But I don't want it to alter my stitches here, so just make sure you hold that down so it doesn't pull them in the wrong place. And then just to say, a nice double knot. And then just holding that down. Okay. And then just taking a tapestry needle, I'm just going to pop the ends through. Now obviously making sure the yellow goes through the yellow and the white goes through the white, because otherwise that will look pretty horrible. And staying on the back side of your work, just literally just pop your needle under a couple of the loops here to the centre. Pull it through, making sure that you don't, as you pull, that you're not pulling it tight, because you don't want to distort the shape that you've created. So just loosen that off. Taking a pair of snips and literally just carefully, so you don't cut your work, done that before, snip that off, and again then just pull that back so that it takes that little end into itself. Okay, done. Now it is obviously more fiddly when I'm trying to show you, but I sit in front of the TV and do these. It's really easy to do and really quick. You can make one of these in under half an hour once you get familiar. So, and as I say, play around, don't do the same colours or make bigger ones or things. But here are our two that I've got here to show you. I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of something different, and I hope it inspires you to start crocheting your own little flowers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!